Hello. In this video, we will discuss how to set up your inputs so that the NeQter client can begin collecting logs from your local devices. This includes firewalls, domain controllers, file servers, workstations, and more. We'll also briefly go over how to set up the G Suite and Azure to send information over as well to your NeQter client. So starting off, the first thing you want to do is go to Settings, and then from Settings, you're going to find the Inputs tab and click. This will bring you to the Syslog and Agents Inputs page. And from here, you might notice that there are a few options available to you. The first option is up on the top right, which is Add Inputs. This is actually where you can add your agents and syslog inputs into the actual table down below, so the NeQter device can start collecting logs from there. We'll go over how to use this in a few seconds. But you may also notice on the top left corner that there are three options here. The first one is syslog and agents, which is simply brings you back to this page. Then there's Google G Suite and Microsoft Office 365. Google G Suite is where you can set up to actually receive logs from your G Suite service. And Microsoft 365 is where you can do the same, but instead of G Suite, you do it for Office 365 event logs instead. So returning back to Syslog and Agents, the first thing you want to do is click Add Input. And then from here, you're going to give it a label. So for example, let's start with the domain controller. What you do for the domain controller is give it a name. So we're going to call it DC1. And then we're going to need its IP address. You can find this by going to your domain controller, typing ipconfig, or looking into the network settings. But for now, we already know what the domain controller's IP address is, which is 172.16.4.61. And then we're going to select this log source. Since we're using an agent to collect logs from the domain controller, all we need to do is click Agent, hit Save, and now we are ready to receive. Now you might notice that it says not receiving. This just means it has not received within the past minute. This page is static, so this will not change from receiving to not receiving, etc. Basically, you'll only see what it has gathered over the last minute before starting this page. So if the status says not receiving or receiving, do not threat, it is okay. This does not mean that you're not receiving anything at all, it just means you're not receiving anything when it did that query. Now, not every device you're going to have will be obviously using the agent. If you're collecting syslog files from, let's say, a firewall or a different type of device, then what you can do is actually add it here as well. So the way you do it is just like before, add inputs. Let's say you had a Sophos firewall, and let's say its IP address was, for example, 172.16.4.121. Then all you have to do is, instead of log source being agent, you would select syslog, and then for the manufacturer, you would select the appropriate manufacturer. Now we inherently support a certain amount of manufacturers, from Barracuda to pfSense to, again, Sophos. But for those who might have something a little bit different, you'd actually select other. And from there, we can start collecting just syslog files from there. If it's not already supported, it's not guaranteed that it will work with our system. If you need more information about this, you can always contact us at support@NeQterLabs.com. So anyways, going back to what we were talking about before, we'd select the Sophos system that we have. Let's say it was an XG, and then click Save. And now we're able to start receiving logs from our Sophos system. And that just about does it. From here, pretty much you can just add as many inputs as you might need for each device that you wish to collect logs from. Just make sure that all of them are pointing towards this NeQter box. If you need to edit a previous log, let's say you change the IP address of your Sophos server to something else, you can always go over here and edit this as so. Or let's say you no longer have a Sophos device, you can always just delete it from your input table. So next we can go to Google G Suite. And if you have a G Suite service available to you, you can always begin collecting audit reports from your G Suite service. So the way you would set it up is like so. You would first enable what you want. So let's say I want to collect admin events, drive events, and login events. You can enable all of those. And then what you can do is request authentication, which will bring you which will send out a URL, and you can select which ones you would wish to authenticate. So I want to go through NeQter. It can take a few moments, and then allow. And then from there, all you have to do is copy this link right here. And then all you have to do is post it into here, authorize and enable. And once that's good, make sure that this is checked, and you can begin collecting your G Suite log files. Last but not least, we have the Office 365 event logs. Sadly, I do not have an example available to use, but what I can show you is our guide, which is right here. This will give you a extensive guide on how to actually navigate through Office 365 to set it up. You also have the online documentation, which will be right here at docs.nectarlabs.com, and you can always find more information under Office 365 as well. And with that, you have everything you need to start populating your inputs table and collecting log information. If you have any questions, you can again check out our documentation site or email us at support@nectarlabs.com. Next video, we will begin to discuss how to set up dashboards so that you can begin visualizing the logs the Nectar box has just begun collecting from our demonstration here. See you then.